hit and run. On camera. Caught on a vintage Portland security system like it is a late-night true crime documentary. Friend, I am shaking. I am physically, spiritually, and emotionally unwell right now.
I mean, I have been shouting this into the void since week 4. The entire Portland situation was just, it was always way too murky.
It really was. Like, we just spent 10 exhausting weeks thinking this woman was this chaotic, unlucky victim of circumstance where, like, a desperate mother trying to hold her life together.
And it turns out she was basically playing Grand Theft Auto in her own driveway. Like, she didn't just bump him.
No.
She fully revved the engine. You do not just accidentally run over a man who is actively screaming at the top of his lungs that he vouched for you.
Literally don't.
That is not a blind spot issue. That is not a, oh, the sun was in my eyes issue. That is a premeditated vehicular manslaughter issue, Bestie. The red flags were waving, and you just thought it was a parade.
Okay, you were right. Babes, welcome back. We love you. We see you. And babes, somehow we're already at the finale. Where does the chaos go when the season ends?
Honestly, it doesn't go anywhere. It simply gets internalized until it becomes a stress-induced cavity, or an ulcer, or a terrifying coping mechanism.
Which is so real. But my brain is officially short-circuiting, and I just don't know how to process this level of television betrayal.
Well, speaking of coping mechanisms, we are officially clocking out of the clinic and into the madness today.
We absolutely are. Snark Squad, listen to me closely. We have passion fruit martinis on deck tonight because surviving this wild season of television deserves a massive toast. Finales demand something a little extra.
They really do.
And honestly, surviving our actual real-world adult lives deserves a double. So cheers to you, cheers to us, and cheers to whatever the hell the Suda Group is actually doing in the shadows of the corporate underworld.
Cheers to that. May our martinis be incredibly strong and our moral compasses be at least slightly more functional than Paula Sanders. Because right now, the bar is currently in hell.
It is subterranean at this point. Okay, but before we get into the absolute delusion, the destruction, and the architectural brilliance of the maximum pleasure guaranteed finale, it is time to reflect on the week.
Time to unpack the trauma.
Exactly. For those of you who might be new to the Snark Squad, we are 2 dentists working at different clinics, navigating the absolute trenches of adulthood, one literal cavity at a time. So, friend, I'm going to kick us off with the high of the week because my soul requires a moment of grounding before we descend into the dark arts of corporate blackmail.
Please ground us. I desperately need a moment of genuine positivity before I spiral into a 20-minute completely unhinged rant about Carl's weaponized incompetence. He represents everything wrong with modern patriarchy, and I am ready to fight.
Honestly, so valid. So my high of the week is actually a massive, profound life high. I just got back from my dental mission trip to Ethiopia, and Snark Squad, it was completely life-changing.
And I hinted at the photos you were sending in our group chat.
Yeah.
It looked absolutely incredible.
It really was. And I know people throw that phrase around, but I mean it in the truest sense. It is so easy to get completely bogged down in the day-to-day sterile grind of the clinic back home, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
You are arguing with insurance companies over billing codes. You are dealing with patients who scream at your front desk staff because they don't want to pay a $20 copay for a panoramic x-ray.
Don't even get me started on the copay arguments.
Right, and you just start to lose the thread of why you chose this profession. But being there, working in that environment, it completely recentered my entire perspective on healthcare and just humanity in general.
The joy in those kids' faces in the pictures was just radiant.
Yeah.
But I can also imagine the physical toll of that kind of environment must have been intense.
Oh, the physical toll was beyond intense. We set up these makeshift clinics in incredibly rural areas, literally operating out of community centers and schools. Yeah, we were working 12, sometimes 14-hour days in the intense heat. And the pathology we saw was severe. I am talking complex extractions, treating massive, painful abscesses that had been festering for years.
That is heartbreaking.
It was. But we were also putting on fluoride varnishes for these beautiful kids who had never even seen a toothbrush, let alone a dentist, in their entire lives. And the gratitude from the families, I mean, it was overwhelming.
I bet. It really strips it all back to the basics.
Exactly. It completely stripped away the corporate transactional nature of modern medicine. It reminded me that at its core, this job is about healing. It is about taking away someone's physical pain so they can live with dignity. My heart is just so incredibly full right now.
That is genuinely profound. It actually highlights such a stark contrast to what we consume in media, too. Like, you are out there restoring human dignity, while we are about to spend the next hour discussing characters who systematically strip dignity away from everyone around them for absolute sport.
The duality of man, truly.
It is a beautiful high, though. And honestly, it makes my high of the week sound incredibly petty and absurd, which is, frankly, very on brand for me.
Bring on the petty. The universe demands balance, bestie. The profound must be balanced by the absurd. Give it to me.
Okay, so my high of the week was a cynical, hilarious, minor clinic victory that preserved my fragile sanity.
I am listening.
I have this one patient, we will call him Mr. Plaque for confidentiality reasons, who notoriously, aggressively refuses to floss.
Oh, I have at least 3 of those.
Right. Every 6 months he comes in, his gums are practically hemorrhaging just from me shining the overhead light on them, and he actively argues with me that flossing is a scam. Like, he genuinely believes it was invented by the dental floss cartel to sell useless string.
Stop it. They genuinely think Big String is out to get them. It is a massive conspiracy.
It is exhausting. So this week he came in for his semi-annual cleaning, and I took a deep breath, braced myself for the inevitable bloodbath, and prepared my usual lecture about periodontal disease. I leaned him back, looked in his mouth, and babe, it was pristine.
Wait, what?
I am talking immaculate. The tissue was pink, stippled, perfectly healthy. I was in absolute shock. I sat up, looked him dead in the eye, and asked him what on earth had changed his philosophy.
What did he say?
He just stared back at me and said, I started dating a hygienist.
I am screaming. That is the funniest thing I have ever heard.
I swear to you on my license. The absolute unyielding power of a judgmental romantic partner achieved in 3 weeks, 4 years of my professional science-backed medical advice, could not even put a dent in.
That is hilarious.
I did not even have to lecture him. I just polished his beautiful plaque-free teeth and sent him on his way. It is a cynical victory because it proves that human behavioral change is rarely driven by logic or health. It is driven by the desire to impress someone we are attracted to.
The psychology of that is so fascinating. We will literally ignore medical experts, but the second someone we want to date expresses an opinion, we completely overhaul our entire lifestyle. That is such an incredible high. But, as we know, for every peak, there is a valley.
Yes.
We must transition to the low of the week.
I would be honored to lead the descent into darkness today. My low of the week was a complete structural scheduling disaster that made me want to simply hand my keys to the receptionist, walk out of my own clinic, and walk directly into the ocean.
Oh no, what happened?
It was a Thursday afternoon, the golden hour before the weekend energy is supposed to set in, and somehow, through a glitch in the matrix or just sheer human error, our front desk double-booked 3 incredibly complex procedures at the exact same time.
No, my chest is getting tight just hearing you say that.
I had a difficult crown prep in chair 1, a complex molar root canal in chair 2, and an emergency surgical extraction in chair 3 for a patient who was actively having a severe panic attack.
That is the literal definition of a clinical nightmare. How did you even manage that? You can't clone yourself.
I did not manage it gracefully, I can tell you that. I drank 3 shots of espresso, threw on my lead apron like it was battle armor, and went into pure survival mode. I was sprinting between operatories like a feral animal on a medical drama.
I am so stressed for you.
I was apologizing profusely, sweating completely through my scrubs.
Oh.
The root canal took an hour longer than expected because the patient had a calcified canal, which was a nightmare to navigate.
A worst.
The emergency extraction patient started hyperventilating before he even got the topical numbing gel on their gums. And the crown prep patient was audibly sighing and tapping their phone every single time I stepped out of the room to check on the others.
Oh, babe, I'm so incredibly sorry. I know exactly that feeling.
By the time 6 p.m. rolled around and the last patient left, I felt like I had been hit by a freight train. My nervous system was completely fried.
That is the kind of day where your brain just shuts down and you have to order the greasiest pizza you can find, lay flat on the floor in the dark, and just stare at the ceiling until your heart rate returns to normal.
Literally what I did.
Which, funny enough, leads me perfectly into my low of the week. Mine is less of a specific clinic disaster and much more of a sweeping existential crisis.
Oh, we love a squeaking existential crisis on the Snark Squad. Lay it on me. Let's unpack the trauma.
I was just having this massive realization this week that adulthood is essentially a non-consensual personal development course.
Wow, yes.
Like, nobody asked to be enrolled in this. You turn 25, your prefrontal cortex fully develops, and suddenly every single day is just a new, exhausting test of emotional regulation, boundary setting, crisis management, and financial literacy.
You articulate it so perfectly. You think you have graduated, you think you have mastered a specific life skill, and the universe just looks at you and says, surprise, pop quiz on your deep-seated abandonment issues. Let's see how you handle this obscure tax form while dealing with a friendship breakup.
It literally never ends. And my realization this week, my big what did I learn about myself moment, is that I have a major boundary that I desperately need to start aggressively protecting.
Ooh, tell me.
I am such a chronic people pleaser, especially with my staff and my patients. I have this overwhelming need to ensure everyone around me is comfortable, which means I end up acting like a sponge for everyone else's stress.
I do that too.
If my assistant is having a bad day and is quiet, I try to overcompensate and fix their mood. If a patient is incredibly anxious, I take on their anxiety and try to carry it for them. I realized this week that I am completely, systematically draining my own internal battery just to keep everyone else's fully charged. And it's not sustainable.
It is a one-way ticket to severe burnout. That is so incredibly valid, friend. And it is such a common trap for healthcare providers.
It really is.
You cannot pour from an empty cup, especially when you're holding a high-speed drill next to someone's tongue. You have to protect your peace. If you absorb their anxiety, you lose your objectivity. It is hard to unlearn that people-pleasing reflex, but it is necessary for survival.
I am actively working on just letting people experience their own emotions without feeling responsible for fixing them. It's tough. What about you? What did you learn about yourself this week in this non-consensual university of life?
I have to confess that I have a highly toxic habit that I am actively trying to break, and I realized how bad it was this week. When I'm completely stressed out from the clinic, like after that triple book Thursday, instead of doing something restorative, I do the exact opposite.
Wait, what do you do?
I doom scroll. I fixate on things that irritate me. I will literally seek out infuriating news articles or social media threads just to justify the baseline level of stress I am already feeling.
Oh no, that is so bad for you.
It is like my brain is addicted to the cortisol.
Yeah.
And instead of calming down, I look for fuel to keep the anxiety fire burning. It is toxic. It is entirely unproductive. And honestly, sitting down to watch the Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed finale was probably the absolute worst possible thing for my central nervous system.
Serious.
Because every single person on this show is making the absolute worst, most infuriating decisions possible.
It is so wild how a dark, twisted, cynical thriller about corporate blackmail, extortion, and murder somehow ends up holding a mirror up to our own toxic traits and teaching us life lessons.
Truly.
But speaking of restorative things and breaking toxic habits, we have to talk about our new shared obsession. Snark Squad, if you are in your 30s, you know exactly what we are talking about right now. We have officially entered our romanticizing ordinary nights era.
Or, as I prefer to call it, the delusion of domesticity.
Stop. Let me have this joy. Let me paint the picture. In my 20s, a Tuesday night after work meant collapsing on the couch, ordering incredibly expensive, lukewarm takeout that arrived an hour late, and mindlessly watching a screen until I passed out.
A class.
But now, I'm trying to make ordinary, mundane nights feel luxurious. I am talking about coming home, washing my face immediately, and lighting the expensive candles. Yes, the $40 woodwick ones that I used to save for special occasions.
Look at you go.
I play instrumental jazz in the background. I actually chop fresh vegetables and cook a meal from scratch.
Yeah.
I go for a 20-minute walk at sunset, leaving my phone inside the apartment. I get into bed early and read a physical paper book instead of staring at a blue light screen.
Very aspirational.
It feels like the ultimate luxury just to force myself to slow down and exist in the present moment.
Okay, I hear you. I see the vision, and I fully support your romantic journey toward inner peace. But I have to push back a little here from a purely pragmatic standpoint.
Why are you like this?
Because lighting an expensive woodwick, cedar, and bergamot-scented candle does not magically erase the profound physical and mental trauma of a 10-hour workday where you had your hands inside other people's mouths while they gagged on your dental mirror.
It helps, though.
It is a beautiful delusion. It smells fantastic. But let's be real. When I am forced to chop a raw onion at 8:15 p.m. on a Tuesday when my feet are throbbing, I am not romanticizing the culinary experience. I am actively resenting the onion. I am angry at the concept of dinner.
You are so desperately cynical. The onion did absolutely nothing to you. It is about the intention, babe. It is about the mindfulness of the act. It is about reclaiming your personal time from the gaping void of capitalistic exhaustion.
I will reclaim my personal time by ordering a massive portion of pad thai, tipping the driver 20%, and letting reality television wash over my brain like a warm, trashy bath. Thank you very much.
To each their own, I guess.
Which actually brings up a very important debate we were having in our group chat earlier today, and we need the Snark Squad to weigh in on this. If you could host any reality TV show in the world, current, past, or future, which one would it be?
Oh, this is the easiest question I have ever been asked. I would host Love is Blind, without a single doubt.
Really?
I would be the ultimate emotional support host. I wouldn't just stand on a stage and ask generic questions. I would be in the trenches with them. I would sit on the velvet couches in the pods. I would hold their shaking hands. I would aggressively trauma bond with every single contestant.
Oh, you would be terrible at it.
No, I would be great. When they inevitably get their hearts absolutely shattered by a man who says he's not physically attracted to them after claiming he loved their soul, I would be right there with a giant box of tissues and an enormous glass of Pinot Noir telling them that their true person is still out there. I would be so deeply, uncomfortably, emotionally invested in their journeys that the producers would probably fire me for being wildly unprofessional.
Oh, you would be a complete disaster. A literal liability to the network. You would lose all objectivity. You would probably end up marrying one of the contestants yourself just to make them feel better about being rejected.
I mean, maybe.
No, my answer is entirely different. I need to host The Traitors, specifically the UK version in the Scotty the Silence.
Oh, that makes so much sense for you.
I want to wear a dramatic, heavy velvet cape. I want to stand at a massive round mahogany table in a drafty castle and ruthlessly banish reality stars from the premises.
Yeah.
I want to be strict, terrifying, and completely, utterly unbothered by their tears or their pleas and innocence.
You would be so mean.
I am sorry, you have been murdered in the night. Gather your things and get out of my castle. That is the exact energy I want to bring to television.
You would be so incredibly intimidating. The contestants would vote you out of the castle just out of pure fear. Honestly, Bravo should just recognize our dynamic and hire us to co-host all future reunions. Think about it. You can be the terrifying interrogator holding the thick binder of receipts, aggressively questioning the housewives about their hidden offshore bank accounts and fraudulent shell companies.
And I would enjoy every second of it.
And I will be sitting next to you handing out soft tissues and trying to facilitate emotional breakthroughs and apologies. It is the perfect good cop, bad cop routine.
Andy Cohen, if you were listening to this, call our representation. We are ready to step in.
But babes, enough about our own emotional growth, our clinic trauma, and our grand delusions of hosting reality television. We have a massive job to do today. Let's get into this finale of Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, because some of these characters clearly skipped every single life lesson imaginable, and we need to hold them accountable.
That is the understatement of the century. The amount of delusion, narcissism, and sociopathy packed into this single hour of television requires an advanced degree to unpack.
Let's start right at the top. The golf course showdown and the fake-out death. Okay, I need to talk about how Paula finally connects the dots. After weeks of stumbling around in the dark, she realizes that Dennis was never the mastermind.
Obviously.
He was just a middleman, a disposable pawn in a much larger game. The real puppeteers pulling the strings of all this blackmail are the Suitor Group, this massive, shadowy, global risk advisement firm. So what does our girl do with this incredibly dangerous information?
She certainly doesn't do the logical thing.
Right. She doesn't go to the police, which, to be fair, they have been useless all season. Instead, she hops in her car, drives to the Suitor Group's highly exclusive corporate leadership retreat, and marches straight onto the manicured putting green to confront Cecilia Vanderwall, the senior vice president of the entire firm.
Okay, before we dissect the dialogue, we have to talk about the visual storytelling and cinematography of this specific scene, because the director absolutely snapped. It was masterful.
It was so good.
The tension they build before a single word is spoken is palpable. Look at the setting. They are out on this pristine, hyper-manicured, vibrant green golf course. The grass is literally perfect. And that setting represents exactly what the Suitor Group is: wealthy, tightly controlled, exclusive, completely removed from the messiness of normal society.
Untouchable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are untouchable. And here comes Paula in her normal clothes, bringing her messy, desperate, chaotic survival energy right into the center of their safe space. The contrast is brilliant. And the weather. The sky's overcast, the wind is blowing, and they literally have these ominous flocks of birds swirling overhead in the background like a Hitchcock thriller. It was visual poetry that told you a storm was about to break.
It was incredibly tense. My stomach was in knots because Paula is walking up to a woman who is casually holding a metal golf club, a woman who literally orchestrates assassinations before her morning coffee, and Paula just completely unloads on her.
She really does.
She lays all her cards on the table. She exposes to Cecilia that she knows the truth. Dennis used Trevor's Camboy recordings to blackmail highly powerful clients. But what fascinated me was that it wasn't for cash. It was for corporate leverage.
Which is the real currency.
Exactly. She starts rattling off the things they gain, zoning laws in Amagansett, the rights to a bauxite mine, and a freaking patent for pizza yeast.
Okay, we need to pause and talk about the pizza yeast patent because that specific detail is brilliant writing and it tells you everything you need to know about how high-level corporate espionage actually works.
Right, because at first I was like, pizza yeast? Really?
To the average viewer, blackmailing someone for a yeast patent sounds ridiculous. But think about the mechanics of the global food supply chain. If you hold the patent for a specific, highly resilient strain of yeast that is used by every major fast food pizza conglomerate in the world, you essentially control a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
You create a monopoly. You can dictate prices. You can choke out competitors. You can manipulate the market. It is not about stealing money from a safe. It is about controlling the underlying systems of capitalism. The writer showing us that Suter Group kills people over zoning laws and yeast patents is a terrifying commentary on how corporate greed operates completely detached from human morality. They will literally murder you over dough.
That is so jark and so brilliant. It is the banality of evil on a corporate scale. But Cecilia plays it so incredibly cool. She doesn't flinch. She denies knowing who Dennis is. She gives Paula this incredibly condescending, polished PR spiel about how we don't break the law, we are in the truth business.
She is basically swatting Paula away like a mosquito.
Yes. And then Paula drops the absolute hammer. She plays her trump card. She reveals her ultimate leverage. She has definitive proof that Dennis bribed a Yale admissions officer to get Cecilia's son, Blake, into the university.
Which is such a brilliant, biting piece of social commentary. It is the most realistic rich person crime imaginable.
Operation Varsity Blues all over again.
It is a direct callback to the Varsity Blues scandal. These corporate titans will rig international supply chains, but their ultimate vulnerability is their obsession with legacy, status, and the Ivy League credentialing of their mediocre children.
Yes. And the monologue, bestie. Paula looks this untouchable corporate titan dead in the eye. She appeals to her directly, mother to mother, stripping away all the corporate titles, and says, "You are in the truth business. How is this for truth? You fucked with the wrong mom. Mike, drop."
I physically got chills when she delivered that line. Tatiana Maslany's acting in that moment was ice cold, because Paula recognizes in that exact second that Cecilia doesn't care if the zoning laws are exposed.
Right.
She doesn't care if the pizza yeasty scheme hits the news. Suter Group has lawyers to bury all of that. But Cecilia desperately cares about her son's Ivy League status and her personal reputation among the elite.
She hit her right where it hurts.
Paula weaponized the exact vulnerability that she herself has been fighting for all season, the primal instinct of motherhood. She basically looked at Cecilia and said, "I will enthusiastically burn your child's entire future to the ground in order to save mine. Try me."
It was an incredible moment of empowerment. But then, oh my God, talk about the ultimate whiplash. In the very next scene, 5 minutes later, the camera cuts to a sterile hospital room. We hear machines beeping. We see someone waking up with a severe gunshot wound, and the camera slowly pans up. And IT is Dennis. Murray Bartlett is alive. I screamed at my television.
I rolled my eyes so hard that almost got stuck in the back of my skull. It was ridiculous.
How could you not be thrilled? It is Murray Bartlett. He is such an iconic, charismatic villain. He brings so much dramatic, theatrical flair to every scene he is in. When I saw his eyes flutter open, I was like, yes, the messy king has returned from the grave to cause maximum chaos for the finale.
Your romanticization of objectively terrible men is concerning, friend. He's a monster.
I know, but he is so fun to watch. But the joy lasted for approximately 12 seconds. Because he is awake, his face is completely bandaged and swollen from where Paula literally shot him point blank in the cheek, and these two nurses walk into the room.
So-called nurses.
Right, except it becomes immediately obvious they are not nurses. They are Suter Group fixers. They casually unhook his sweevy, tell him they are taking him outside for some fresh air, and wheel him out of the room. And what do?
They do their jobs.
They wheel this helpless, recovering man to the very edge of the hospital roof, casually slip a pre-written fake suicide note into his hospital gown pocket, and just tip the wheelchair forward, shoving him off the building to a splattery demise on the pavement below.
It was the most ruthless, clinically efficient, chilling corporate execution I've ever seen put to film. There was no grand monologue, no dramatic villain music, no final showdown. It was just pest control for billionaires.
It was so abrupt.
And honestly, I argued with you in the group chat about this for an hour yesterday, and I stand by my assessment. Dennis was a massive liability to the Suitor Group, and he got exactly what was coming to him in the corporate underworld.
I feel slightly bad for him. He truly believed he was this big, powerful, untouchable player in their organization, and the moment he became an inconvenience, they just disposed of him like yesterday's garbage.
Abe, let's review the facts. He was a textbook sociopath who actively blackmailed sex workers, orchestrated murders, ruined Paula's life, and enjoyed doing it. Why on earth do you feel an ounce of sympathy for him?
Because I appreciate good acting and narrative closure. Murray Bartlett deserved a final, grand theatrical monologue before he died. He deserved a moment to reflect. But no, they just tossed him off a roof like a discarded candy wrapper.
He was a liability.
And the fake suicide note they planted on him was so perfectly sociopathically crafted to frame him for everything and neatly close the police investigation.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Quote, I, Dennis O'Neill, confess to the murders of Trevor and Skye. After such knowledge, what forgiveness, unquote. They even threw in a pretentious T.S. Eliot poetry quote to make it completely believable that Dennis wrote it, because he's exactly the kind of narcissist who would quote modernist poetry in a suicide note.
Exactly.
And just like that, because it is tied up with a literary bow, the cops buy the narrative completely. The case is officially closed, and Paula is completely exonerated of all murder charges.
It is the ultimate display of the privilege of a corporate cover-up. They have the resources and the audacity to clean up their mess so fast and so thoroughly it would make an obsessive-compulsive dental hygienist jealous. But we cannot linger on the roof because Paula's relief over being exonerated lasts for exactly 5 minutes before she is forced to face the real, true, unadulterated villains of this television show.
The absolute worst people currently depicted on any screen, anywhere, Carl and Mallory.
I hate them with a fiery passion that burns hotter than 1,000 suns. I genuinely hate them more than the actual cabal of corporate assassins. Let's look at the psychology of this situation.
Please, let's unpack it.
Paula is fully exonerated. The murder charges are completely dropped. Her name is cleared in the eyes of the law. Therefore, the entire primary foundational reason for Carl and Mallory to seek full-time custody of Hazel and forcefully relocate her to Boise, Idaho, has completely evaporated. The threat is gone.
It is entirely gone.
But out of pure, unadulterated, malicious vindictiveness and sheer blinding hubris, they decide to push forward with the custody hearing anyway.
It makes my blood boil just thinking about it. Mallory is sitting there in the courtroom gallery, rolling her eyes, looking smug. And let's not forget the backstory here. Apparently, Mallory bribed a court security officer with a rare, highly valuable Magic the Gathering trading card just to manipulate the docket and try to get a specific judge who statistically favors fathers in custody disputes.
Like, what even is that?
The absolute unhinged lengths this woman will go to just to steal another woman's child and move her to the potato capital of America is clinical level psychotic.
And we absolutely must talk about the shark lawyer they hired for this hearing. This man was despicable, but he perfectly represents the dark underbelly of family law strategy. Because he could no longer use the homicide charges against Paula, he immediately, ruthlessly pivots his entire strategy to character assassination and slut-shaming.
It was so hard to watch.
He brings up the Trevor situation, the fact that she was paying a cam boy for digital companionship. He brings up the murky, dismissed incident from Portland. He implies with zero evidence that she has a history of drinking and driving. He basically throws every misogynistic trope at the wall to paint her as this unstable, hypersexual, reckless, utterly unfit mother.
Which perfectly sets the stage for Tatiana Maslany to deliver what should undeniably be her Emmy-winning reel. Paula is called to the stand. She is facing down this aggressive lawyer. She sees her pathetic ex-husband and his evil girlfriend watching her, and she completely owns the narrative.
She really did.
She doesn't cower. She doesn't cry. She doesn't apologize for surviving. We need to break down her defense because the specific analogy she uses, the dying lawn analogy, was so profoundly accurate about the slow death of a marriage.
It was a breathtaking piece of writing. The lawyer is trying to paint her as erratic, and she grounds her defense in the quiet, tragic reality of domestic failure. She describes the slow, agonizing end of her marriage to Carl, like watching your front lawn die during a drought.
That part broke me.
One day you notice a little bit of brown and you think it's fine, and the next day it is all dirt. It perfectly, heartbreakingly captures the psychological concept of ambiguous loss. That slow, creeping realization that the foundation of the life you built is just slowly turning to dust beneath your feet. And because there wasn't one massive explosion, you didn't even realize it was happening until it was too late to save it.
It was devastating. And then she doesn't let him shame her for the camboy situation. She addresses it head on with absolute fierce vulnerability. She looks at the judge and says, "When my marriage ended, it destroyed me. I was a wreck, but I had a kid, so I couldn't be a wreck. I had to keep it together."
She was just trying to survive.
Exactly. She says, "I wasn't going to magically meet some well-adjusted guy at the farmer's market or a neighborhood book club, so I went online for some companionship. I could schedule that between school pickups, making dinner, and hitting work deadlines." Do you honestly think that was my grand life plan? It was fucking survival.
She essentially stands up in a sterile courtroom full of judgmental legal suits and declares that entering motherhood does not magically erase your fundamental human needs. It doesn't erase your loneliness, your sexuality, or your desperation for connection. It was an absolute masterclass in stripping away shame by owning your truth.
Yes, bestie.
And the director makes this incredible choice to slowly pan the camera to Carl during her monologue. He looks completely, utterly blindsided because Carl is a weak, passive, cowardly man who never, ever bothered to look at the collateral damage or the deep emotional pain his absence caused.
Never once.
He just checked out, let Mallory run his life, and let her write the vindictive script for his divorce. He never saw Paula as a complex human being until that exact moment on the stand.
Which is exactly why the final verdict is the most cathartic, deeply satisfying moment of the entire season. The judge, played wonderfully by Boris McGiver, doesn't fall for the theatrics. He looks at the actual documented facts. He sees that Paula has never once violated the custody agreement, that she is a stable, reliable, fiercely protective mother, and he slams the gavel and rules entirely in Paula's favor.
The relief was real.
Hazel stays in New York. The wave of pure schadenfreude that washed over me watching Mallory and Carl's arrogant hubris completely backfire in their faces is an high I will chase for the rest of my natural life.
Oh, I was cackling. I was literally pointing at my television screen and laughing out loud in my living room. Hope you like wide open spaces and cows, Mallory. Enjoy Boise. Have fun building your dream life on a foundation of spite.
But the best part of the entire sequence, the absolute chef's kiss of character development, is the hallway confrontation immediately after the trial ends. Carl, displaying a level of emotional immaturity and staggering entitlement that should literally be studied by behavioral scientists in a clinical lab, actually approaches Paula and whines to her.
I could not believe my eyes.
He walks up to her looking totally lost and asks her for advice on how to figure out his logistics now that he and Mallory are moving to Idaho without Hazel. He asks the woman whose life he just spent months actively trying to destroy in a court of law for logistical and emotional support.
The sheer, unadulterated audacity of mediocre men. I had to pause the television. I had to stand up and walk a lap around my living room to regulate my breathing. How do you attempt to sever a mother's relationship with her child, fail, and then immediately ask that same mother to help you pack your bags?
It's insane, and Paula, in her ultimate moment of triumph, gives the most glorious, healed, boundary-setting response. She looks at him, totally unbothered, and says, "I think that I am Hazel's mom, not yours. I think you need to tighten your shit up, Carl."
Inject that line directly into my veins, using his own condescending corporate catchphrase against him. It was poetry. It was the ultimate display of personal growth. Paula finally truly realized that she does not have to manage his emotions, his logistics, or his life anymore. She completely, emphatically detached. She cut the cord.
Truly a transformative moment. But we must keep moving because this finale did not let us breathe for 1 second. We move to the aftermath, romance, rejection, and villain origins because after the massive victory at the trial, Paula throws an exoneration party at her apartment. And amidst the celebration, she finally kisses Steve, the incredibly hot, incredibly supportive soccer coach.
Okay, I know you love this. Tell me how much you swooned over this very basic display of human decency.
I swooned so hard. Let me defend Steve. Steve has been a walking, talking green flag all season long. He was incredibly patient with her. He was kind and supportive toward Hazel. He didn't judge Paula or pull away when she was literally the prime suspect in a gruesome double homicide, which is a lot to ask of a casual dating partner.
I am sure.
And they finally get this quiet, earned moment of romantic joy amidst the chaos. It felt so deserved for her to just be held by someone safe.
See, this is exactly where my deep-seated cynicism flares up and I cannot suppress it. I am highly, highly suspicious of Steve.
Why can't you just let her be happy?
Because nobody in this dark, twisted narrative universe is that perfectly well-adjusted.
Yeah.
He is too nice. He is too endlessly patient. He just stood by and waited around while the woman he went on 2 dates with cleared international corporate murder charges.
He's just a good guy.
Statistically speaking, either he is an absolute saint who requires intense therapy for his savior complex, or he is a deeply embedded suitor group plant sent to monitor her. In this show, I trust absolutely no one who smiles that much, but whatever. They kissed. The lighting was nice. It was cute. Let's talk about the real devastating tragedy of this party. The romantic fumble of the century.
Oh my God, Rudy and Gary, just saying their names makes my heart ache.
Let's break down the psychology of this disaster. Rudy and Jerry leave the exoneration party together. They are walking down the dark street. The romantic tension is palpable. The chemistry has been slowly, agonizingly building all season.
The slow burn was killing me.
Jerry, who is usually so guarded, takes a massive risk, bravely reaches out and grabs Rudy's hand. Sparks are visibly flying. Rudy even leans in and asks if they can go to a quiet bar by his place. And just when you think they're finally going to cross the threshold and ride off into the sunset,
He ruins it.
Rudy opens his mouth and destroys everything.
He ruins it completely. He literally holds her hand just long enough to say, "Not like that. Vi is coming by at 10. Vi, the ex-girlfriend who already broke his heart."
He snatched a devastating defeat directly from the jaws of a beautiful victory. Who does that?
Yeah.
If you are foolishly getting back together with your toxic ex-girlfriend, you do not intertwine fingers with your brilliant coworker who is clearly, obviously, harboring a massive, vulnerable crush on you. It was an act of profound emotional negligence.
It absolutely crushed her. You could see the hope physically drain from Jerry's face, the embarrassment, the sting of rejection. She drops his hand like it's on fire. And what does she do? She does the most relatable, petty, deeply human, heartbreaking thing ever. She immediately pivots straight to villainy.
It is a textbook villain origin story, driven entirely by the neuroscience of rejection. Studies show that social rejection activates the exact same pain pathways in the brain as physical injury. She is deeply wounded, she is lashing out to protect her ego, and she turns on her heel and marches straight back to the office in the middle of the night to finish the explosive hit piece article she was writing on Paula.
It is so sad.
The exact article Rudy spent the entire season begging her not to write. She's essentially projecting her pain, saying, "If I can't have you, I will systematically destroy the person you spent all season protecting to punish you."
It is so incredibly messy. I hate that she is doing it because it is going to ruin Paula's life again, but on a visceral level, I also completely understand that unhinged, irrational, feminine urge to just burn the entire world to the ground when a boy hurts your feelings.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. We have all been one poorly timed, insensitive text message away from trying to ruin someone's career. It is a dark part of human nature.
But speaking of ruining things and dark human nature, we need to discuss the final act of this finale. The cleaners, the cops, and the ultimate twist. Because while the party is happening and the romance is falling apart, the criminal underworld is still operating at peak efficiency.
Yes, we must address the hit woman, Jennifer, the fake lawyer who has been psychologically and physically terrorizing Paula. Earlier in the episode, in a shocking moment, she shoots Detective Baxter in the chest in the woods.
Which, by the way, Baxter miraculously survives. I was so relieved because I love his character, but I know you were incredibly annoyed by it.
I was deeply structurally annoyed from a writing perspective. Think about it logically. If you are a highly trained, elite corporate assassin retained by a multi-billion-dollar firm, you do not shoot a police detective in the woods and just leave him bleeding on the ground without confirming the kill.
She got distracted.
It was incredibly sloppy for someone of her supposed caliber. Baxter's surviving felt like a very convenient, cheap plot armor device to ensure the police storyline remains active for a potential season 2.
Well, I like Baxter, and I love his dynamic with Detective Gonzalez. Seeing Gonzalez sitting at his hospital bedside, showing a man who just got shot in the chest TikTok videos of his rescue cat, Chester, to keep him awake, it was oddly, beautifully wholesome in a show devoid of wholesomeness.
It was literally the only wholesome interaction in the entire hour. Because while they're looking at cat videos, Jennifer goes into hiding. She dyes her hair, changes her entire aesthetic, and calls Brian the terrifying caddy who acts as the primary cleaner and fixer for the suitor group.
He is so scary.
She tells him she is still committed to the contract and is going to take Paula out. Brian, sounding like a friendly neighbor, is like, "Sure thing, pal. Let me set you up with a new, untraceable car for the job."
And Jennifer, who is supposed to be this sharp, elite assassin, completely falls for the trap. She goes to the dark parking garage to pick up the car, and Brian is just waiting patiently in the shadows. And without a single ounce of hesitation, he just raises his gun and shoots her in the head. And then he calmly pulls out his phone, makes a call to his superiors, and delivers the absolute coldest line of the entire season. All done. Sunny skies ahead.
I have to admit a toxic truth. I love Brian in that specific moment. It was chaotic, evil perfection. He is simply cleaning house. The firm is tying up loose ends. Dennis is dead. Jennifer is dead. Paula is legally neutralized. The suitor group is protecting its massive assets by eliminating all the liabilities. It is chillingly efficient.
Meanwhile, Detective Gonzalez is not stupid. She realizes this entire case has just been tied up with a bow that is way, way too neat. A suicide note and a dead assassin. It screams cover-up.
Natural.
She actually shows up at Paula's apartment during the exoneration party and essentially begs Paula for help, asking her to share what she uncovered so the police can try to take down the bigger fish at the suitor group. And Paula just looks at her, completely deadpan, and slams the door right in her face.
I cheered out loud.
You cheered at a citizen refusing to help law enforcement take down a corrupt syndicate.
Absolutely and unequivocally. Let's look at the history here. The cops were utterly, comprehensively useless this entire season. Gonzalez routinely ignored Paula's pleas, patronized her trauma, and almost let her go to prison for the rest of her natural life for a double murder she didn't commit, all because they were too lazy to look past the circumstantial evidence.
Okay, that is true.
Paula owed her absolute nothing. Icing out the cops was the only logical, self-preserving choice for a woman who just barely escaped with her life.
I mean, when you frame it like that, you make a very compelling point. Paula finally chose peace. The party ends. She cleans up the apartment. She tucks Hazel into bed, ensuring her daughter is safe. She sits down on her couch with a beer. The window is open, letting in the cool night breeze. She takes a deep, cleansing breath. You watch it and you think, wow, against all odds, she actually won. She beat the system.
But we are watching a premium streaming thriller, babe. Peace is always an illusion.
The cliffhanger. Snark Squad. My jaw literally unhinged and detached from my skull. Paula is sitting there, and she gets a call from an unknown number. She ignores it, wanting to protect her peace. Then a text comes through. It is a large video file. She reluctantly hits play, and the screen shows grainy security footage from her old driveway in Portland, timestamped June 2024.
The infamous, highly debated Portland incident. After all the whispers, we finally actually see what happened.
And it is absolutely damning. We see her neighbor, Caleb, standing directly in front of her car in the driveway, looking completely unhinged and desperate. He is screaming at her, "Stop avoiding me. I am not going away. Talk to me, or maybe I will start talking. I've vouched for you. What are you fucking a dumb?"
Vouched for her for what? That is the central million-dollar question that recontextualizes her entire character. What was she involved in back in Portland?
I know. I need to know immediately. And Paula, our supposedly reliable, victimized, innocent narrator, the woman we have been rooting for to survive this ordeal, screams back from inside the locked car, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." And then she puts the car in drive, intentionally revs her engine, and drives straight into him.
It wasn't a blind spot. It wasn't a tragic accident where he slipped behind the tires. She committed premeditated vehicular manslaughter. She used a 2-ton machine as a weapon because someone threatened to expose a secret.
It is the ultimate betrayal of the unreliable narrator trope. We trusted her. And then, immediately after the video plays, the final text comes through on her phone. The message reads, "We own you. You're going to do us a favor." The phone rings again. Paula just stares at the glowing screen, completely terrified, realizing she is trapped all over again. The screen abruptly cuts to black, and we just hear her shaky voice say, "Hello."
End credits. Roll the music. I sat in absolute stunned silence on my couch for a full 5 minutes trying to process what the writers just did to us.
We have to speculate. I need theories to survive until the next season. Let's break down the mechanics of the blackmail. Who sent the text?
If we look at this analytically, the most logical answer is the suitor group, Cecilia Vanderwall and Brian. Think about it from a corporate strategy perspective. They just watched Paula, an amateur with a laptop, completely outsmart, outmaneuver, and expose a global corporate espionage firm.
True.
She has incredible research skills, she is tenacious, and she clearly has a dark side. Instead of killing her, which is messy and draws attention, they want to recruit her. They want her as their new fixer to replace Dennis. They dug into her past, found this deeply buried footage, and they're holding it over her head to force her into indentured servitude for the firm.
Okay, that makes complete logical sense based on how the suitor group operates, but what if it's more chaotic and personal than that? What if Carl or Mallory has somehow got their hands on that footage and they are using it to blackmail her into giving up custody of Hazel? Mallory is certainly evil enough to try it. She works in high-level PR. She knows how to hire private investigators to dig up dirt.
I will concede that Mallory is deeply evil, yes. But she is not hacked into a private Portland security server from 2 years ago evil. Remember, her grand master plan was bribing a mall cop-level security guard with a children's trading card. She is strictly operating at mid-tier, desperate villainy. The Suitor Group has access to global surveillance resources. It has to be them.
Okay, fair point on Mallory's incompetence. But here is my absolute favorite, deeply researched fan theory that I found spiraling on the Reddit threads at 2 a.m. We saw earlier in the episode, in a very brief, seemingly throwaway shot, that Rudy was walking past a large corner office at the Margin, the magazine where Paula works as a fact-checker.
Right, I noticed that.
That office was suddenly completely papered over, the glass windows were blacked out, and men in suits were installing heavy-duty digital keypad locks on the door. What if the Suitor Group quietly bought out the publishing company that owns the Margin?
Oh,
What if the favor they are demanding is forcing Paula to use her internal access as a fact-checker to intercept, manipulate, and kill real journalistic investigations into the Suitor Group's corporate crimes before they ever go to print? The blacked-out room is their new operational hub right inside her safe space.
Okay, wait, stop. That is actually structurally brilliant.
Yeah.
It ties her professional life, the corporate thriller plot, and her new blackmail situation together perfectly. And think about the character dynamics. It puts her directly, violently in conflict with Jerry, who is a journalist actively trying to write an investigative piece.
Exactly.
If Paula has to kill Jerry's stories to save herself from going to prison for the Portland hit and run, oh, the psychological drama that would cause. I am fully, wholeheartedly subscribing to that theory.
It would be so good. It creates the perfect pressure cooker for a second season. Apple TV, if you were listening to this, greenlight season 2 immediately and hire the Snark Squad writers' room as story consultants because we see the vision.
Let's pivot because it is time to hand out some academic accountability. Welcome to the final report card. We are grading Paula, Carl, Mallory, and Dennis on 5 distinct metrics: communication, personal growth, emotional maturity, relationship effort, and decision-making. Host, kick us off with our complicated protagonist, Paula.
All right. Evaluating Paula is tough because of that final twist. But overall, I am giving her an A+ for survival instincts, psychological manipulation, and absolutely stellar courtroom dramatics. She figured out the rules of the game being played against her, and she won.
That is fair.
However, I am forced by my moral compass to give her a resounding F for vehicular manslaughter and for lying to literally everyone in her life for an entire year. Her communication skills are genuinely terrible unless she is actively blackmailing a CEO on a golf course.
A very fair and balanced assessment. Let's move to Carl. I'm giving Carl an F-. He failed every single category with flying colors. He possesses absolute zero emotional maturity. His entire existence is defined by staggering passivity, letting Mallory completely run his life, manage his finances, and dictate his relationship with his own child.
He is the worst.
The fact that he asked Paula for logistical help packing for Idaho mere minutes after he just tried to legally take her daughter away, he is a walking black hole of competence.
Yeah.
F-.
He really is the most infuriating type of man. Now, for Mallory, I actually have a slightly controversial grade here. I am giving Mallory a solid A for effort in scheming.
Really?
An A, you have to respect a girl who fully commits to the bit. She decided she wanted that child, she wanted that aesthetic move to Boise, and she manipulated the legal system to secure a misogynistic judge. The hustle was there. However, I am giving her an F for execution because all of her intricate scheming instantly fell apart the second Paula opened her mouth and spoke the truth.
Bribing a court official with a piece of cardboard is frankly embarrassing, so the F in execution is well-deserved.
Yeah.
And finally, Dennis. I will give Dennis a solid C for dramatic flair because Murray Bartlett makes every single frame of television he occupies inherently watchable, but he gets a resounding F for situational awareness on hospital rooftops.
It's so true.
If 2 large, unsmiling strangers in cheap scrubs wheel you to the ledge of a skyscraper in a wheelchair, maybe ask some follow-up questions about the treatment plan.
Rest in peace, Dennis. Again, we hardly knew you.
Which brings us to the existential question. Who actually grew? Did anyone on this deeply cursed television show actually experience genuine personal growth, or did they just adapt to new levels of trauma?
I am going to argue that despite the cliffhanger, Paula experienced the most profound growth. Look at where she started in episode 1. She was terrified, isolated, letting Carl push her around, turning to the internet for basic human connection because she felt so invisible.
I mean, true.
By the finale, she found her voice. She stood up to a global corporate syndicate. She fiercely defended her motherhood in a court of law, and she learned how to weaponize information to protect herself, rather than just being a passive victim of it.
Okay, I hear your defense of her arc, but I am going to push back aggressively. Did she actually grow? Or did the circumstances simply force her to unmask and realize she's actually a ruthless villain who is fully capable of premeditated murder and high-level blackmail?
I don't know if I would call her a villain.
Because that Portland video suggests she was always deeply unhinged and dangerous. She just hid it better under the guise of a struggling soccer mom. Honestly, I think the only person who actually grew was Detective Baxter, and he grew by simply surviving a point-blank bullet wound to the chest and hopefully learning the valuable lesson that maybe he should call for police backup before walking into the woods to confront an assassin.
You are so endlessly pessimistic about human nature, but I think we can both universally agree that Carl learned absolutely nothing, experienced zero self-reflection, and deserves absolutely zero chances at redemption.
Amen to that. Now let's look into our Snark Squad crystal ball. Where do we predict these specific characters will realistically be 12 months from now?
I predict that Carl and Mallory will quietly, miserably break up in Boise. Carl is going to realize very quickly that without Paul acting as a convenient common enemy to bond over, Mallory's deeply controlling, unhinged, neurotic energy is going to be turned entirely suffocatingly on him.
It is going to be a nightmare for him.
He will be miserable, eating unseasoned potatoes in a bleak subdivision, deeply missing the vibrancy of New York, and he will have absolutely no one to blame but himself.
That is the most incredibly realistic, bleak outcome, and I love it for them. As for Paula, I predict she is living a full-blown, terrifying double life. By day, she is the glowing, supportive soccer mom, bringing perfectly cut orange slices to the field, openly dating Steve and acting like everything is normal.
And by night.
By night, she is sitting in that blacked-out room at the margin, acting as a high-level corporate blackmailer and digital assassin for Cecilia Vanderwall, killing journalistic stories, ruining lives, and losing her soul piece by piece to protect her secret.
Oh, the juxtaposition of that gives me absolute chills. And what about Gary and Rudy? Where does the broken timeline leave them?
Gary is going to fully embrace her villain era and become a cutthroat Miranda Priestley-level editor. She is going to publish that devastating hit piece, it is going to go viral, and she is going to step on anyone and everyone to get to the absolute top of the journalism world. She will turn her broken heart into ambition.
Good for her, honestly.
Rudy, meanwhile, is going to fail his LSATs because he is entirely too distracted by the toxic drama of getting back together with V. They will break up again, and he will end up pathetically begging for his entry-level paralegal job back, bringing Jerry iced coffees when she completely ignores his existence.
It is exactly what he deserves. Let this be a lesson. Never, ever fumble a smart, fiercely supportive, brilliant girl for a toxic ex who already broke your heart once.
Preach the gospel. All right, we're rounding the corner to the very end of our breakdown. It is time to hand out the hardware. The Snark Side Awards for the season. I will start us off. The award for biggest red flag unequivocally goes to Rudy mentioning his ex-girlfriend while actively holding Jerry's hand in a deeply romantic setting.
It was so bad.
It was an act of pure emotional terrorism, and he belongs in jail for it.
I strongly second that motion. My award for biggest green flag goes to Steve, waiting patiently on the sidelines for a woman to clear double murder charges before making a romantic move. That is a king who deeply respects personal boundaries and the legal concept of due process. We love a patient man.
The award for main character energy undoubtedly goes to Paula, threatening a global corporate overlord on a golf course in broad daylight, surrounded by security without a weapon. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of that confrontation was breathtaking.
So true. The most delusional award goes to Carl, thinking Paula was going to help him pack his moving boxes for Idaho and manage his logistics after trying to legally strip her of her child. Read the room, Carl. You are the villain in her story.
The Chaos Creator Award goes to Brian for casually shooting his own hit woman in the head and saying sunny skies ahead like he just finished pruning his hydrangeas on a Sunday afternoon. Though honestly, Paula intentionally running over her neighbor in Portland is a very close second. It's a tie for chaos.
The biggest glow-up award goes to Dennis waking up in the hospital, looking surprisingly refreshed and moisturized for a man who took a bullet to the face. This is, of course, immediately followed by his glow down when his skull hit the pavement off the roof 10 minutes later.
Brutal, but medically accurate.
Yeah.
Best one-liner of the season has to be Paula's absolute mic drop to Cecilia, "You fucked with the wrong mom." It belongs printed on a t-shirt, a coffee mug, and a bumper sticker.
And finally, the couple you secretly rooted for, Jerry and Rudy. We are officially, collectively mourning the tragic loss of this ship. May it rest in peace alongside Dennis, Jennifer, and Carl's dignity.
Well, Snark Squad, that officially brings us to the end of our massive finale breakdown. We are physically exhausted, we are emotionally spiraling, and we have so many deeply unsettling questions about what happens next.
We turn the conversation over to you, the Snark Squad. Hop into the comments section, jump into our Discord server, and tell us your thoughts. Who do you think showed the most genuine growth this season? Which relationship twist surprised you the most? And most importantly, taking a page from our own book at the top of the show, what is one lesson you learned about yourself this week in the non-consensual personal development course of adulthood?
And we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to obsess over and ruin your sleep schedule until the network finally gives us a release date for Season 2. Think deeply of the nature of the Sousa Group's power. What if their blackmail isn't just about forcing Paula to be a killer?
What else could it be?
What if it is purely, insidiously about the monopolization of truth and information control? If they force her to use her trusted job as a fact-checker at the margin, to quietly kill real, damaging journalistic investigations before the public sees them, does she slowly become the exact corporate monster she spent Season 1 fighting to defeat? Is that blacked-out, digital lock secret room in her office the physical, terrifying manifestation of her new, inescapable prison?
Oh my God, I have literal goosebumps on my arms. The psychological horror of that is brilliant. Thank you guys so incredibly much for listening, for laughing, and for spiraling with us all season long. You are the absolute best, most insightful listeners on the planet. Please remember to subscribe to the feed, leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out so much more than you know, and share this conversation with another messy babe in your life who desperately needs to watch this show so you can gossip about it together.
Stay flirty, stay fabulous, and we'll see you on the Snark side.